One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Alrighty, welcome back to SciFi And Friends podcast. This is episode number 76. It's a cold, wet, rainy day. We all want to be watching some Netflix on the couch, but we have work to do. We are here in studio. Any updates? Nothing I can think of right now. We're 1 week away from Halloween, wrapping up some projects, getting some things going before the end of the year, but we are getting close to that 2023 mark, which is pretty wild because I feel like it's still 2020, right? But further ado, let's hop into episode number 76. Today I have two very special guests with me. I have Shelly McColm and Vallerie Sweeton from Horses of Hope. Ladies, Thank you for joining me today. I know you're very busy.
Thank you.
Walked in, putting some fires out already.
Yep. It's part of it.
Part of it, isn't it, right?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming. 25 years this year that Horses of Hope has been around, correct?
25
Pretty wild.
years. That's amazing.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
How did that all get started? I know we're going to jump right into the history of things, but
Well, actually, Val and I had the opportunity by way of my husband. Well, it backs up even further than that, I guess. Val had come to my home, our farm where Horses of Hope is located now, had come there with the veterinarian to actually work on a horse, and I met her that way. She, at that point, was standing a breeding stallion that then she sent me a Christmas card, and it had the picture of...
Drumming up business.
Yes.
there you go.
Of Goer on the Christmas card is the name of the old stallion, and so then... My daughter at the time had started taking riding lessons as a little 5-year-old with a woman in Missouri and over in the Joplin, Webb City area. And then we had the opportunity to move more to focus on Western riding and that Western discipline. And so I knew Vallerie gave riding lessons to children and adults and did training and that horse training and that kind of thing. And so I reached out to her when our daughter Micah was 6. And she started working with Micah as a 6-year-old, giving her riding lessons, and they spent many, many hours on the back of a horse.
That's awesome.
So at that time, Val just lived 3 miles down the road from us.
Oh, that makes it convenient too.
Yeah, it made very good sense to do that instead of drive. And so we got started that way. And my husband had some friends that had a child with Fragile X syndrome.
Okay.
And, of course, he would sing Valerie's praises and mine, and he just thought we could do anything. And the mother had said, could my child possibly take a riding lesson or at least ride a horse?
Sure.
And at that time, my daughter was riding a little walk-trot mare, and Val's old lesson mare was in foal, going to have a baby. And so we used my daughter's horse and rode this child with Fragile X syndrome, and it was a very magic day. I mean, it was very clear, this is incredible.
Yeah.
And so I just said to Vallerie, at that time, I just said, what about starting a therapeutic riding center, working with children with disabilities? And at the time, I really thought Val would not be very interested. She was training horses, and she was showing horses all over the country and kind of in the bright lights. And so I thought, she's not going to want to do that. But I had the opportunity with a job that I had been working to have researched therapeutic riding and knew the exact page that at that point it was called NARA, North American Riding for the Handicap Association.
Okay.
And they had a consistent ad in the Quarter Horse Journal. And so I knew that page and I knew that number, 800 number. And so I asked her one day, we were shoeing horses in her barn, and I said, what about starting a therapeutic riding program, Val? And she said, well, you know what? I'd love that. And I thought, oh, my gosh, I can't let any grass grow under my feet. I said, you have a journal, don't you? And she said, yeah, right there in the living room. And so I went in her house, and I got that journal, and I got the number and made sure and called 1-800-369-RIDE. And the rest is history. And so that's how we started.
That's very cool.
Really, kind of with my husband, kind of laying it out there for us to take a spin with. And so it was pretty cool, really.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Did you have any idea of what you were getting yourself into? Starting out like that? You're just calling the number?
Yeah, I don't think to the level that we are now we
Right.
had any idea.
No.
We started with 12
Really
riders and a
yeah.
hog barn.
Yeah,
Oh.
12 riders in a hog barn. That's exactly right. The old farm that we're on, the Kansas farm, was a hog farm.
Oh, wow.
Prior
Okay.
to us purchasing it. And so we laugh and say we scraped hog manure off the walls and painted them to get started with a little 12-foot, not 12 foot, but 60-foot wooden pen outside of the old barn that's on the farm, still standing there.
That one that we shot in?
Not the one we shot in, but
Okay.
the old wooden barn
Okay.
on the south end is where we
Oh.
started.
Oh, wow.
Really, really old
Wow.
barn. And so, very interestingly, though, we started on I was working actually a volunteerism grant through a school system in the area.
Okay.
And I called my grant writing dear friend up and said, hey, how do I turn this grant into a horseback riding program as a therapeutic program for persons with disabilities? And she said, oh, just don't worry about volunteers, really helping therapeutic riders. Just worry about them as volunteers, since the focus was on volunteerism.
Okay.
And so it was a federal program. And so she rewrote that grant, $10,000. And we started on that 10,000 with 12
Wow.
riders. So
Wow.
that's pretty amazing too, because $10,000 today
Right. We're not going to get very far.
doesn't even buy you a load of hay.
Oh, geez.
So it's just it's pretty amazing to think that that's exactly how we started.
Right. And to see what, how it's come now. I think you have 3 farms total or ranches
Well,
or
Yes, we actually have our Kansas, our original farm, and then about 17 years, for about 18 years now, maybe 19, we've had a farm over in Missouri, a sister site in Missouri that
Okay.
we operate, and it's actually on its second location now. It used to be in Buffalo, Missouri.
Okay, yeah.
And we sold that farm to be closer to a larger service region. And now we operate out of Rogersville, Missouri over there.
Okay.
And 2 years ago, we started a collaboration with the Native American tribe, the Modoc Nation,
Okay, yeah.
down in Miami. And now Val and I, over those 2 years, have gotten that program up and running. And so Val and I are still down there. And the collaboration is now we've developed the program. It's more of a Modoc Nation equine program, but
Okay.
it started under this spirit of collaboration with Horses of Hope.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So now it's more of a MODOK thing rather than Horses of Hope, but
Correct.
still collaborating.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice. Excellent.
Yes, we
Absolutely.
Val and I both still run the program and
Okay.
provide guidance to
Yeah.
the program. Yeah.
So does the program across all 3 ranches reflect one another? I mean, they're pretty similar, or
The Kansas and Missouri programs are very similar,
Okay.
and they offer therapeutic riding, which is where we started, was just offering recreational sport kind of focus, teaching
Sure.
horseback riding to persons with disabilities. So that happens at both Kansas and Missouri. As well, then in Missouri, they also offer hippotherapy, which
Okay.
hippotherapy, we have an occupational therapist that works with us, but it could also be physical therapy, speech language pathologist,
Okay.
work with the horse and utilize the movement of the horse to achieve those specific therapy goals. Just like they might work towards in a therapeutic clinic or an outpatient clinic,
right.
then the barn and work with the horses becomes the clinical setting for the therapist to work towards those goals. That happens in Rogersville.
okay.
Then the similarities between Rogersville and Oklahoma are Rogersville also offers equine assisted mental health work, working with mental health therapists. Shelly is now a mental health therapist.
Okay.
An equine specialist and the horse team together to work with people in need of mental health services. And in Oklahoma, those are the sole services that we offer are equine assisted mental health. We partner the Modoc Youth and Family Services, their healing house therapist, work with our equine specialist and horses to provide mental health services.
Okay. So there's a difference between the mental health and then like the physical therapy aspects
Yes.
of it.
Yes.
So
Yeah, they look very different.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So with the physical therapy, that's more of maybe posture on the horse or
It's, right. Things can happen off of the horse as well.
Okay.
But the main focus is the movement of the horse is what creates so much physically therapeutic benefits for people. Improvement in core strength, balance, just postural control. We see improvements in speech.
Really?
Speech, language, that all comes from our core.
Okay.
Riding a horse, that's all core. To sit upright, to manage all of the movement that the horse, that bilateral stimulation that the horse gives, has an effect on speech. Many, many things. There are things they do off the horse as well, but
Sure.
the real magic in hippotherapy, I believe, is on the horse through the movement of the horse. Equine-assisted mental health work, there's little to no riding component in it.
Okay.
It's
There's-
all happening on the ground. It's all
Okay.
very relational with the horse. Occasionally there is some riding, a mounted component, but rarely, and it's a
Really?
very small piece of it.
So that's more of, interacting with the
Yeah.
horse, or
Right.
maybe just around the horse.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, because sometimes if someone watched what we did, they'd go, they just sat there and pet that horse for 45 minutes.
Yeah, right. Doesn't
Yeah,
sound
that's
so
what we
bad.
did.
Yeah, right.
That's what we did, but there's a lot happening.
Okay. Are you looking for certain things while this is going on, or?
I'll let Shelly.
Actually, what we begin to look at with equine-assisted mental health is a healthy relationship. So as you can think about a person who has trauma in their life, or complex trauma, which is trauma laid upon trauma,
Right,
piled
yeah,
up, so to
right.
speak, there probably have not been a lot of healthy relationships in their
Right.
lives. And so we are beginning to try to help them see what a healthy relationship can look like. And through that, we start with a safety component. Safety and connection is what we say.
Okay.
And so as they begin to connect with the horse and develop a relationship with that individual, then they begin to see what safety and connection is. Because there they are, let's just say on the average of a child, let's say maybe 100 pounds, 120 pounds, versus a 1,000-pound animal.
Yes.
But the 1,000-pound animal, you must remember, is a prey animal. It's not a predator. Most relationships in their lives have been predatory. So it's very interesting when that large, gentle animal lives in the moment and is non-judgmental and right there to hold space and be with that child. And so all of a sudden the tables are completely flipped because that's not what they've lived through or what they are used to. And so we help them have a choice in that, make a connection, and be in a healthy context. So in a therapeutic farm environment setting, that's a healthy context to be in, and then the choice to be there, and then making a healthy connection.
Right.
So when they have that, then they are much more able to move into relationship with that animal much quicker,
Sure,
because
yeah.
there's no judgment, there's no they're right in the moment, they're not worried about the past nor worried about the future. It's
Right.
all happening right here in the moment.
That
So
set and setting type thing, yeah.
very much.
So does the relationship building and then the safety, construction, does that happen usually on the first interaction with the horse? I mean, does it happen really quick, or does it take a while? I mean, it probably depends on the...
Right. Well, it's very
child.
interesting because we do a lot of group psychotherapy work. So
Okay.
usually peer groups. So let's just
Interesting.
I'll take a group that we're currently working with out of a school system in the northeast Oklahoma area. So a group of middle school children who've come in with pretty severe complex trauma, lifelong living situations that are just not healthy, just not supportive, not conducive to health and well-being.
Oftentimes it's generational. They come from generations that have lived in this.
Right.
over and over. So if
So
you've
not
had
only complex trauma, you have generational
Yeah.
trauma in there too.
generational,
Yes.
exactly. So if you've had domestic violence, then many of them, their grandparents were violated
Yeah,
domestically,
right.
and then it just goes backward.
Right.
So this particular group of children we brought in, and we always do on the first time they come to visit, we do herd observation, and then they select their horse partner.
Okay.
And so this particular group was very, very ready and eager to come together and to work. Even though, as we do spend a fair amount of time circling up at the beginning to just kind of get group process set up and our kind of way of functioning and our healthy way to be together and learning from one another. And so we spend a fair amount of time getting just to know people and that kind of then feeling safety. We have a safety agreement that we say. And so we agree to that and work through that. And they're given this, it's challenge by choice, so to speak. And so this particular group, they all made their selections. And we work from an overlay that some incredible colleagues of ours from Beyond Healing Center in Springfield, Missouri. They are a group of very talented trauma-informed therapists, and they have created this theory that includes what they call RUAC, which is recognize, understand, attune, and co-regulate. That's what the acronym stands for. And so in that first session, of course, you would work pretty much on recognize. I mean, that's where you're going to kind of camp out and kind of deep dive for that session, and really actually the next maybe couple or three. As we're learning and growing, you might spend quite a fair amount of time under the guise of recognize, under that particular word. So beginning to recognize that it's not a thinking thing, but it's a feeling thing. Many times thinking thing would be top down, what we call top down neural network, neural brain kind of work, from our prefrontal cortex down to the amygdala where trauma takes place, fight or flight kinds of things in the base of your brain. But in this particular setting, we often work with from the bottom up. Right. Because as you know, a very well-trained neuroscientist in the field, leader in the field, will talk about the body keeps the score. He's actually written a book. Right. Yeah. And so the body does keep the score. So it comes with you. So your body it reacts to trauma much like a horse is reacting to the world. Your body knows it before your prefrontal cortex, your thinking, your executive functioning part of your brain gets that. And so very interestingly, this set of children were so eager, and they were just really soaking up everything the horses had to offer. And so they actually went through recognize, understand, attune, and co-regulate nearly in the first session. That's good. Now, it doesn't mean that they thoroughly understood those the separate pieces of each one of those thoughts and parts of that theory, but they touched on each one of them because they were so. And I'll let Val help me remember a comment or two. Do you remember that one of our participants would have said about their horse on the first day? Well, after we had
they just chosen. Really quickly, because a lot of times, especially with younger kids, it's like, why did you pick that horse? Well, I liked his pretty blonde mane. Yeah. Or its color. Yeah.
He was close to me.
He's the one that I got to touch. Yeah, right. But with this group, one of the kids said, and it was quite a deal because he was across the yard, and the horse he ended up choosing was neighing, and that's what got his attention because this horse was in a different field. So that got his attention, and he went and met him. And when we asked him, well, why did you choose this horse? And he said it was something about when he looked in my eyes, he saw my soul. Oh yeah. It's like, wow. So like he just looked and made that eye contact and just felt that connection.
And he stood there a fair amount of time with it. So you could see him across the way, really, you could see that happening. And so he recognized, understood, attuned, and co-regulated. That was really happening in that moment. Not to the level that maybe it can, but it very much took place. When a child says they look, his eyes, just...
And that's the unusual answer.
Sure. Absolutely.
Because for a lot of kids, just for them to even acknowledge that, whether it's because of the horse's pretty mane or I liked how he felt when I petted him, that they make any kind of a connection to another being is huge.
Right.
Just because they don't. Any connections they've had in their life up to them have hurt them.
Right.
And so our hope is they learn that, okay, this can exist now with a horse. There's hope that can happen
With a person.
elsewhere in the world with a
Right.
person, that you
Right.
can make those choices and see who it is, who do you feel that you can make that connection with, because a lot of our kids are so closed off that they
Sure.
just don't feel.
And many times it's interesting to watch because children, little bitties to big kids, if you will, not as much maybe adults, but certainly youth will Val and I have done this kind of work either from a mental health standpoint since I've become a therapist, mental health therapist, but certainly we did it from an educational model for 20 plus years. And we've often watched children really want to get right in a horse's eye. They'll just want to look right in the eyeball, like they're really seeing something down in there.
Right.
And if they're of the level, height wise, to be, and that child would be kind of at that horse's level. So his height and that horse's eye level height were quite similar. You'll see it with little bitties with our miniature horses.
Okay, yeah.
They'll just get
Yeah,
down there and
right.
just look. And they'll just look. And many, many times children will very, very often just talk to their horse and just pet their horse, be with their horse. Another girl in that particular group, she noticed a horse from a far distance. So she walked out of the end of the barn, and off to a distance was a particular mare that she loves this work. And we would say she's an incredible spirit horse. She is very, very good at wanting to take that career path of holding space for people that hurt bad. And that mare gives her all to do this work. I mean, some horses are much more cut out for this mental health work, and some are very cut out not to do that and to do therapeutic. Yeah, it's very interesting to watch that. And this mare, she was donated to us as a show horse that just didn't make it in the show world. And so she was very misunderstood in the show world. She kind of has what we say 4 different legs. And so her job
Not the best confirmation.
Yeah, confirmationally. She just really does have 4 different legs, which then her form to function wouldn't work in the show world because it just doesn't hang together properly. But we tried to do therapeutic riding with that mare, and she was a little naughty. Actually,
really?
she
was not good at it.
She was not very nice about it. She would do little naughty things that let us know she really didn't like that.
Interesting.
And so she's ended up in this herd of doing equine assisted mental health work, and she is by far one of the best. I mean, she'll always pick a client that has complex trauma, or a client will pick her that has complex trauma, and there's a depth of healing that needs to take place there. And it's amazing to watch that. That's just kind of based on certainly just lots of years of doing this work, but it's incredible to watch because she absolutely, I mean, obviously that's her gift to give in life, because she will hold space for the toughest.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. And I was curious if there was any patterns like that with the horses, if they continually, find a person, like you said, with complex trauma, or I think I told you guys about the Mission Wolf program in Colorado. And they said that this one particular wolf, whatever group they bring in, will always go to the person that is most closed off over and over and over again. They had soldiers with PTSD. They had, younger kids with domestic trauma. And every time that wolf would come up and just look them straight in the eyes. And they said that's the first time they've ever been seen by someone or something, which makes me think of the eye thing, where the kid's looking at the eye and saying, he saw my soul. It's like, yeah, a big animal like that. And we talked about it in the interview, Val, when you said the nervous system that that it's on loan to the
horse
human.
loans us his nervous system. Yeah, that's incredible. I first kind of was introduced to that concept when I was going through training for hippotherapy, which is focusing on the physical aspects of what the movement of the horse can physically do to improve someone's well-being, and had an occupational therapist say the horse loans us his nervous system.
Oh, that was so
and
cool.
And that really made sense at the time. Physically, it's pretty easy to see, pretty clear to see that the movement that the horse creates for a person who just is passively sitting on their back
Right.
as the horse walks. I did a little research project in school that I focused on the umbilical, focused on your belly button.
Okay,
And so when
yeah.
a person who has normal ambulation, normal gait, if you focus on their umbilical cord, it moves side to side in an infinity pattern.
Okay.
It's rhythmical, repetitive. It's the same on each side. Somebody who has a physical involvement, a physical disability, if someone in a chair, that pattern's non-existent.
Sure.
Somebody with cerebral palsy, traumatic brain injury, you name it, that's going to be very asymmetrical, not rhythmical. You may have a big loop on one side and a little loop on the other. And when you put that same person on a horse and focus on their umbilical, it normalizes the pattern.
Wow.
So we would see for people with movement dysfunction, in particular, I think of one gentleman that he was kind of volunteered to be my guinea pig in this study. But when he's on the horse, his pattern, that umbilical pattern, is very normalized. And he actually learned to walk again after a very serious car accident. Physical therapy, occupational therapy had plateaued. They brought him to Horses of Hope. He started riding, and the horse loaning him their nervous system and giving him that normalized pattern. He learned to walk again as a result of riding, to walk independently. Well, now we're learning the horse really loans us their nervous system even much further than that. Regulates, helps. They have found that heart rate and blood pressure lower and normalize, and even I've gone blank on her name.
Dr. Ann Baldwin.
Dr. Baldwin, those studies, because she thought the human would have more of an effect on the horse's heart rate, blood pressure, but what she found is the horse had more effect on the human,
Right.
and that it even lowered to frequencies that humans normally don't even go to. So, but horses in a herd situation in the wild, they feed off of each other. They can tell that. So if you have a large herd of horses and the horse on that end sees the wolf coming,
Right.
before he really even can alert or let the other horses know, he's going to have a change in heart rate, blood pressure, all of that, and the whole herd will sense that.
Right.
So they just have that effect. Those big bodies, those big 1,000-pound bodies will do that for us as well. We've just seen so many things. I think of one young man that had come to the barn in Kansas for some programming, and he loved one of our little mini horses and just loved that pony so much. And it was just, he was there for a very short program. It was all in-hand kind of things that he did, grooming and leading. And there was a little break for a week or two, and then he got to come back again for a next session. And the mom shared with us a story. This kid had some real issues. This little guy liked going to the dentist.
Okay.
And the dentist getting in his mouth and doing that. Like, I think he'd even punched or kicked the dentist just because for someone to get in his space, he couldn't tolerate it. But after he had got to spend those few sessions with the mini, and then they had an appointment, and I think the dentist asked, "What have you done with this kid?" Because it was like so easy. It was such a good. But his time he'd got to spend with that horse kind of helped him get to that place he probably couldn't get to on his own, to feel that different frequency, as Dr. Baldwin.
Physiologically.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, it was incredible. It's like, well, we didn't really do anything specific, but he got to spend time with a great little mini horse.
Yeah,
So we see those things, that the horse really does loan us his neurologic system.
Right. That's wild. And that's just like a testament to, the things that are going on that we don't see around.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think it's been interesting to watch over the 25 years. Like 25 years ago, we'd had none of this kind of research.
Right, absolutely.
We knew things were so incredible and almost magical. Just so blessed, and
we called it the woo-woo.
Yeah, we
the
could.
woo-woo. That's a good name for it.
What's the
Yeah,
woo-woo?
we knew something was happening. And Val and I we just didn't wait to get it figured out. We just kept doing it because we knew that incredibly powerful things were happening for people.
Right. You were witnessing it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Either psychologically, physically, socially, emotionally, however. And so it's just been amazing to watch over the years all of the research that's coming out. And people have had time to study the horse's system, our systems, learn so much more about trauma than we've known about trauma in the past. And it's just phenomenal, really, because the beauty is now we are certainly a big bucket list item for Horses of Hope, and Vallerie and I that lead the program will be to be involved in some research that certainly speaks to equine assisted mental health work and how working with the horse can be such a healing situation. And we're excited to, in the future, we hope to be able to do that.
That would be
at
cool.
Some farm somewhere.
Yeah.
Because of our connection with certainly Beyond Healing Center. They're very interested as well, and they're very intrigued by what the horse gives to the human. And the human animal horse connection, that bond is very interesting to watch. And it doesn't have to be somebody who's just totally enamored with animals. Now, a person who doesn't like an animal, probably not the best fit. But really, it's amazing to watch. You don't have to know anything about horses to be able to be a part of this. But certainly some horses, like we said, are much better at the work, or just really appreciate the work much more. Now, something we have watched over a 2-year span of developing the equine assisted mental health program in Oklahoma has been that the need to watch the horse and how much a horse emotionally, socially, physically, cognitively takes on in a day's time. Path International, we have all premier accredited centers in Kansas and in Missouri, certainly. Premier accredited centers with Path International, Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship. That's the umbrella organization in the country that provides all of the guidance and leadership and parameters in our industry. And so as premier accredited centers, which you go through that process, you have to be 5 years old to go through that. And then you become certified and set for program and administration and facilities, and you have to meet the highest standards of all 3 of those categories to become a premier accredited center. And so they have standards, of course, on how much horses can work, like in the therapeutic riding arena. But what we are finding very fascinating is noticing when our horses are heard. We call them our colleagues, four-legged colleagues, when they have kind of they've had enough post-secondary trauma of their own from working with clients of various degrees. You can see, so now we have been challenged to be sure we are very, very watchful in regards to how much a particular horse may be working with what kinds of clients and how much in a day's time, because they couldn't work to the level that a therapeutic riding horse would work, which I believe is 3 hours.
They can do 6 hours a day,
total.
no more than 3 consecutive.
I believe is.
And you have to have a certain amount of break time in there and that kind of thing. But 6 hours
would be way
that kind of
like a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It can be hard on them.
We of course taking care of our horse herd. This is critical to us as taking care of our human herd. That because without the power of the horse in so many ways, all the different levels that they're powerful to us, without incredible animals, then we can't do our work. If it's just the people that are our staff members, that will never work. So we have to take incredible care. And typically we are kind of an end-of-life situation for horses. So we get a lot of horses over the years that as a not-for-profit, then they are donated to us. The majority of our horses have been donated to us. We have purchased a few horses and some other arrangements, but that's typically how we've received horses, and oftentimes they are older horses, just because an older horse is
Gets
much
donated.
much more cooperative in terms of a lot of retired show horses have come our way, and typically they'll have some sort of a challenge that we have to manage. And so
When you say show, is it like rodeos, and I mean
it could be,
or like what you were doing, showing these horses around? Okay.
right.
Okay.
Yeah. Western, and some English, but
Okay.
mostly horse show, all around kinds of horses, what they call all around. But the American quarter horse is very supportive, and several other breeds are very supportive of the equestrians with disabilities.
Okay.
We did have a show team for many years that was incredibly successful, and we showed all over the country, doing all-around events with a lot of those horses that people in the industry would donate to us. Very nice horses. And
That's cool.
so, yeah, it's very cool. And so years ago, my daughter rode in honor of our therapeutic riding program of Horses of Hope. And so they knew of our show team, and they knew of her. And so that's how we would have gotten out there and them know about us. Because typically what you find, Val and I have found, is we're busy working, and so there's not a lot of time to toot your horn and let people know what's going on, because we're busy working. But so marketing is sometimes hard for us because we're working. But anyway, so horses are a vital piece, and we've had wonderful donors that we couldn't have done without over the years to donate horses, as well as the need for volunteers. And Val, I'll let you talk about volunteers in therapeutic riding and how those folks are so important to us.
So in therapeutic riding and in hippotherapy, you could need up to 3 people for one participant. Someone that horse handles, their job is just to manage the horse, speed, direction, all of that kind of thing. And then 2 people as sidewalkers, depending on the level of involvement of the rider.
Right.
They could need 2 people that walk along and help hold them, maybe have what we would call a thigh hold, help them manage their balance. Not all riders have to have that full support, but they might just need a sidewalker on each side, just there, the just in case.
Yeah, just
if somebody's a little off
yeah.
center,
Sure.
kind of bring that to their attention. If somebody's needing a little help with something, often sidewalker's job is just to kind of help redirect. Oh, did you hear what the instructor said?
Oh, yeah.
This is your right hand.
Yeah.
Use your right hand.
Yeah.
Those kinds of prompts and those things. So volunteer help, we always need volunteer help
Yes.
at both Baxter Springs and Rogersville. And then just managing the farms. Volunteers help us with just keeping the alleyways swept, keeping the water buckets cleaned and filled, getting horses ready for clients, those kinds of things. Lots of volunteer help goes into running both of those locations. We lost a lot of volunteer help in COVID.
I bet.
And it's been kind of hard to bring it back. Some people have just chosen not to come back, or their life situations have changed.
Sure.
So building back that volunteer base has been slow post-COVID. And then a lot of people still just aren't going out and interacting.
Right. Still slow to get back to normal.
as they were before.
Yeah, sure.
So volunteer.
Do you have to have any sort of certifications or
for volunteering?
Yeah.
No.
Just an interest,
just an interest and a willingness to learn. Our instructors will do volunteer training, spend time with volunteers to show them jobs, specific things. If somebody comes in with they don't have to have horse experience, but if somebody comes in with horse experience,
it's a plus.
They might, it is a plus. They might be a little quicker to become a horse handler than somebody with no horse experience. But our instructors will certainly spend time with volunteers who want to learn that so that they can offer that as well as be sidewalkers for clients.
Okay.
And we need volunteers. The minimum is 14.
Wow. Per ranch?
14 years
14
old.
years
Oh,
old.
14
years
years
of
old.
age.
I see.
No, 14 years of age. We really like them a little older. Sometimes you'll get some 14-year-olds that can come in and
Real
be
eager.
mature and can follow directions well.
Sure.
But we can take volunteers as young as 14. But yeah, volunteers are we're always looking for more volunteers.
That's great.
Very
yeah.
important part of what we do.
Well, hopefully we put this podcast on blast
Yes.
and
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
a lot of volunteers
Absolutely.
for you.
Yeah.
'Cause I know it takes a lot. I mean, just like feeding the horses and grooming the
Right.
horses and
Just keeping the facilities looking nice.
absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
keeping things swept and picked up and dusted and cleaned and all of that. Just
Right.
keeping it nice for our clients as they come and go. So it takes a lot of help.
A lot of times in this industry, they'll say this is a volunteer-driven industry because, 3 to 1, so it's pretty critical that when you need as much as three,
Right.
three volunteers per client, if you have 3 in a ring, that's 9 volunteers.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people, and so that's a really important thing. And people sometimes they're long timers, but oftentimes they serve a season, and that
These
works for the
volunteers?
yes, the
Yeah,
volunteers
yeah.
work well for a season, and then
Sure.
but COVID was incredibly difficult.
It was hard.
and it
Yeah.
was been really hard to come back from that.
And it-
We kept services going
Yeah.
pretty readily. Within a week's time, when COVID shut down, we were back up on video doing Zoom kind of therapy.
We called
time
it
with
telehorse.
clients.
Telehorse.
We
yeah.
called it
Zoom
telehorse.
horse.
Yes, and that worked well because our clients missed it so much.
Right.
And then we had horses that loved to come up to the computer and be
That's
a part
awesome.
of that. It was
Yeah.
pretty cool. So yeah, I would have never thought that ever that they would interact like that, but they could hear
And
the voice.
recognize. and-
Yeah.
They could hear the voice of one of their clients I've worked with, and they'll just walk right up to that and look at that.
Yeah, we
Wow.
computer
happened a
screen.
lot.
Yeah, it
It was
happened.
incredible.
Wow.
We, the first time or two we thought, well, it's a fluke.
Yeah,
but then when
right.
it kept happening,
Yeah.
because our clients, even though they are therapeutic riding
Mm-hmm.
clients, not equine assisted mental health clients, it doesn't matter what program you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Just every human being needs connection,
Absolutely.
and we all had connection cut off during COVID.
Right.
And so that was so important for them to keep that connection with their horse,
Mm-hmm.
with their Horses of Hope staff. They're just as connected
Right,
with
right.
our instructors and people that work at the barn. So that was so important, that connection for everybody to keep going. But it was, the first time or two that we would see, and we have we'd all whip our phones out and take a picture.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
look at him looking at the camera. Isn't that cute? But
Right.
and then it was proved to be more than just a cute coincidence.
Right. They're actually communicating.
They were
or-
interacting,
Yeah,
and,
interacting.
and reacting. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So
And it wasn't therapeutic riding where the horse was actually inputting to the human's physical system, but it was certainly inputting to their social and emotional systems.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we had to be out of the box in regards of our thinking. How are we going
Right.
to do this? So we did a little singing and dancing, if you will. But I mean, stories and. We became very creative about
Yeah.
what it was,
Yeah.
we
A lot of
could
time
do.
to do that
Yeah,
during COVID.
exactly. So it was pretty neat that we were one of the few, I think, centers in the country that got into action right away.
Right.
And that was, I can remember Vallerie and I being on a conference call of some sort as representatives with PATH International and speaking with different folks around the country and letting them know kind of how we were doing it, and
Yeah.
then we would learn from them, and because everybody was pioneering a new ground, and so that was just pretty incredible because we figured out how to make that work.
Yeah, pretty cool because you might have never tried those
Oh, never.
techniques,
Would never.
without
Right.
having a.
because
Right.
when COVID shut us down, we had an emergency board meeting. Had our board members. This was before we all knew how to use Zoom, so we were all on a conference phone
Sure.
call. And Angie Gaston, who's on our board and is a mental health therapist, she said, "Well, we've been doing telehealth." She said, "Figure out how to do that." I was
Wow.
like, "How do you
Good
do
call.
therapeutic
Yeah.
horseback riding
Yeah.
on?" But we
Very
sat
good
down
call.
and figured it out, and we were down about 12 weeks, and I wouldn't have wanted to have had to have gone any longer than
Yeah,
12 weeks
sure.
because we were about out of ideas.
Right.
But it worked well, and it really, really benefited our clients.
That's amazing.
Helped them stay connected.
Yeah. Do you still do any of that now, or just everybody can come to the barn?
everybody's
and-
able to come.
That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
That's good.
we're back in full
But we
swing.
could do it with someone who maybe was homebound for some sort of a situation,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and we would have never thought of that before.
That's-
And it forced us to figure out another way to do business.
Yeah, it
And-
could be like a
Yeah.
future endeavor, maybe to
Absolutely.
find.
Absolutely, and there are a lot of people that do still do teletherapy in terms of mental health work. And I mean, they just do that as a, not necessarily COVID related, but maybe they're working with a therapist across the country or something. So there are still, still ways that we could do that if we chose to. I wanted to go back to the whole certification notion you brought up earlier. In regards to our volunteers, and I'd like to speak to the certification that our staff has obtained over the years. We like for everyone to be a certified therapeutic riding instructor that is on staff with us, or an equine specialist in mental health and learning. And those are all certification processes and certifications that come out of PATH International. So all of our staff are either one or the other or both. Several of us have both, but I think that's kind of interesting because that just sets us maybe then again apart from some others possibly. I'd say that we are probably in a moderate size range of centers in the country. There's certainly really large centers, therapeutic riding centers that are on the coast and very heeled in terms of monetary contributions. But we're probably somewhere in the middle that falls clear down to just total volunteer mom and pop shops. But Val and I many years ago decided we wanted this to be a part of who we are and what we do as professionals with the rest of our lives. And so we quickly tried to prove sustainability because and show that this can happen. In terms of professions for people and be able to be as professionally appropriate as possible with salary ranges for people. And that's been interesting to watch grow over time. With a not-for-profit like this, you're constantly fundraising and grant writing, and then fee-for-service is how you raise your income on a organization like ours. We have watched our fee-for-service steadily go up. It was very low for many, many years, and it's about raised now to be more in line with what typical therapy looks like, or a little less, but it's still a bit more appropriate now because there is no way to prove sustainability. This kind of work was started back early in the 50s, around the 50s. Junior league type women that would have horses in those days it would have been crippled children, and so it was a very benevolent thing to be able to allow crippled children, so to speak, and that was appropriate in the 50s to ride your horse, and they would do that, and that seemed very such a lovely gift to give back. But they did it all from a volunteer standpoint. Everything was just done with no. Of course, they would not need any revenue to be exchanged, and even into the 90s, when we started in 1997, many people thought you should give this service away. Well, that doesn't make much sense if you're trying to run a farm and have horses and feed horses and take care of horses and take care of people that work there and turn the electricity on and off. So
it's cold in the winter.
It does. And so sustainability was really important from the very beginning. We struggled for lots of years just trying to prove that, but it's been interesting to watch over time that it is a very viable therapy in terms of either physical therapy, occupational speech and language, or emotional mental health therapy. So it's very interesting now to watch how that has changed. Many people have come to us over the years and been very enamored by how do you run one of these, because they either have a love for children or people with disabilities, or they love horses and just want to be able to give back. And many times we've been very brutally frank and honest with people to say that this is a bit like doing mission work, and it's a mission, and you give yourself to it, and not that it has to be the only thing in your life, because it does not, but I really have to say that our family's commitment and Vallerie's commitment, and the three of us or four of us staying strong to do that and make that happen is really why we're still here, and serve that test of time, because It's very, very difficult work, and it's incredibly rewarding. There's no doubt about that. But rewarding doesn't pay the bills either.
Yeah, absolutely
And
right.
so
There's a great lady. She's out on the East Coast. Her name's Boo McDaniel, and she used to kind of give a presentation on how to start a program. And she'd start it with, "I'm here to tell you today how to make a small fortune in therapeutic riding," and people's ears would really perk up.
Yeah.
And she said, "You start with a large one." So that, I think, pretty much says it all.
Yes.
Right. That's
Yes.
the same in the crypto world. They say if you want to make $1 million, we start with 10. It's like,
Yeah.
We'll get you down to $1 million.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's how actually there are centers still in the country that are well underwritten like that, and that's a wonderful gift. But we're in sunny southeast Kansas in a very rural setting, and not in that situation. And so, but we've been able to continue to provide this service because of the generosity and gifts and support that we have so graciously received over the many years. And we used to, before COVID, we had our country Christmas dinner theater every December. We still have people letting us know, when are
Very
you going to
sad.
bring
I was there for that text message.
When are you going to bring the dinner
She's
theater
very
back?
sad.
She
And
was a withering plant that she
with-
metaphors.
Yes, it was.
and people, I mean, they loved it.
Yeah.
I think if you got to come to it and be a guest, it was probably delightful.
Yeah.
But of course, when COVID came, it was a no-brainer. No,
Right.
you couldn't. And it really was such a labor of love and commitment on our staff's part, because we would start about 3 to 4 weeks ahead of that. Decorate. We had to stop sessions, which was a loss of
Whoa.
income.
Sure.
And then we just had to get that whole facility ready, and it's huge.
Oh,
and
you did it at
so-
the barn? In
Yes,
Baxter?
we
Wow.
did it at the barn.
Oh, wow.
And we decorated the entire inside of the barn and out down the alleyway and other barns.
Not that you're not
and-
busy enough already. like-
Exactly.
oh my gosh.
And so it was a huge endeavor, but it was our major fundraiser for 20 plus years, and provided the big oomph to get us
Sure.
to the next one.
Yeah.
And so, and without the support of people, because we had silent, live, all kinds of auctions, of course, the dinner tickets and the whole bit, but people loved it and were very supportive for years and years. I had many people come like every year for years.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and that's just unbelievable, because not that many people probably knew about it, but enough to make us have 4 sessions. So,
Sure, yeah.
but anyway, that generosity, and we've received many grant funds over the years that have been very supportive, both local and state and national kinds of funds have come in our way. But I think, it's about the installation of hope. And so but you have to stay really committed,
Sure.
and it be your passion. And people talk about passion a lot, but passion is when you serve that test of time. And
Right.
and certainly Vallerie and my family has done that, and still committed to that, until we hopefully have it continue on, in the future when we're all done. But right now I'm excited about the research we can do in the future,
Yeah.
like I said, and that'll be fun to watch, to see if we can give back to the industry in that way.
Help expand the entire industry and the entire field that you're in.
Because when I went back to graduate school to become a clinical mental health counselor, there's just not that much research out there in the field of equine-assisted mental health work.
Right.
And so the industry needs that to show that it's evidence-based and it's an efficacious program. And so I think that'll be interesting to be a part of that. And so we're excited. This actually Thursday, we'll be heading off with 11 of us from Horses of Hope.
Oh, very cool.
Are going to be heading to the National Path International national meeting.
Okay.
We had an abstract accepted to.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, to
Wow.
show our. It's going to be the collaboration that we started with 2 years ago with the Modoc Nation and Beyond Healing Center and Horses of Hope.
Oh, very cool.
Show the industry how we came together and have launched that and continued that, and how we've had the opportunity of the variety of audiences that we've gotten to work with. We worked with a the Department of Justice in Oklahoma, juvenile offenders that are like 16 to 18-year-old males that have felony charges. They have a residential facility near the ranch down in Oklahoma. And so that's an audience we're going to be identifying and then speaking about the different ways that we have been able to facilitate equine-assisted mental health and through MODOC Youth and Family Services and provide those efforts, and share that with other people in the therapeutic and equine-assisted activities. That's equine-assisted activities is kind of the blanket word for mental health and therapy and that kind of thing. So we'll just be showcasing what we've had the opportunity to do when you bring several agencies together. Yeah. And Val and we kind of used to say we could go to national meeting if we presented, but you have to be selected to do that. And so we've spoken at others before, but I told her we were visiting about this one when we applied to submitted an abstract, and I said this is this certainly seems by far our best contribution that we've given to the industry through an abstract. So we're very thankful to be able to be doing that and excited to share with people. And we haven't been in a while, have we?
No.
Just because of COVID.
Well, I don't know. Even before COVID, we just hadn't taken the time because that's several days that everything shuts down.
Right.
And
right.
it's quite expensive and
where's it held?
Take a lot of staff all over the place.
Oh,
This year's St. Louis.
Okay.
So that's
so not
pretty
too
easy.
far away.
No,
Right.
Yeah.
See, that's an easy one. So
Yeah.
we can just drive there.
Right.
It's usually airfare and things that just
Right.
chew you up.
It could be
with
on
travel expense.
anywhere. They'll
Right.
move it all over. So
Yeah.
I tell you, the other thing we have coming up that I want to make sure we talk about is the Horses of Hope Gala that
Right,
Jim Adams and Toyota put on for us. When Dinner Theater ended, we had
Unofficially.
Actually before.
Right.
We
It had
had
started
another
before.
major-
Yeah, we'd had another fundraiser that came to an end, and Shelly reached out to Jim because Fletcher Toyota had been very generous and helped us in many ways before. And she reached out to Jim and said, how could you help us? This big fundraiser that we had, they're not going to do it anymore. And, Jim's brain works like that. And he said, well, let's have a gala. I said, okay.
He went right there.
And so he has created what's become, not to brag, but I think one of the premier galas that happens in this area.
I think it's a pretty big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's sold out quickly. We have such incredible support across the 4-state area, all thanks to Jim.
Right.
I was going to say that all starts with one man's belief.
Yeah.
And that's just incredible to me how one man can be. He is very passionate about our program, and it's just he's just pretty taken. He really feels it way deep in his heart how much we try to do and make available and hold space for others in their healing process, whatever that is. And so I just find that so interesting because one man can get that many people excited and supporting, and he does an incredible job of getting Toyota to provide support, and they very much support him and what he believes in. And I think one thing about this gala is that it's just a great fun party. I mean, Jim Adams knows how to throw the greatest party. And so you just have to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're going to go have a great time.
Oh, yeah.
Now, part of it is, I guess you don't have to wear your black tie. It's not a black tie affair. It's just kind of the opposite.
Right.
He very much encourages everybody to put on their cowboy boots and start your shirt up and come on out. But he very much provides this incredibly fun, relaxed atmosphere, and it's all because of one man's really passion and support for what it is we do of instilling hope. And that's amazing. One man can do all of that.
Yeah. Because we did the video, was it last year or 2 years ago? For one of the galas? Yeah.
That was just a year ago.
That was just a year. Well, yeah, we did it last year.
With the horses. with
That
the
he-
horses
For
and
the
the
gal?
drone?
No,
For
that he came.
That
he
first
came and did
interview
it. That
when I
was
first
just-
met you.
that
Right,
was
right.
last year.
And then, so we made that video, and then I saw the pictures on Facebook, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Holy cow, this was a party!"
It was.
Everything
Yes.
was
This
so
year's
cool. It
Bigger
was,
than ever.
yeah, all the tables
Sold
were full.
out quickly
Yeah,
this year.
it was
Yes.
blew my mind. It looked
And
so
I think
fun.
he added tables this year.
I think he's added some tables and
Good.
it's sold out fast.
I think is it
It is-
sold out now
it's
at this
sold
point?
out.
Yeah,
Yes,
wow.
it's been
Sorry,
sold out
guys.
for a little.
Yeah, it's sold out. You know,
It's been sold out.
it
a
has
little
been.
while,
So it's
That's got to be a good feeling.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it is. It's a good feeling, but then it's also, oh, here it comes.
There's a lot
Are
of
you
people-
ready? Are
yeah,
you ready?
yeah.
but
Yeah.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
What goes on at the gala? I mean, do you present what
we-
you've kind of done, or
Yeah, there'll be. We'll talk briefly. I'm sure that you have created a fantastic video that will
got your back.
represent. Okay, they'll show.
Thank goodness.
They'll
Yeah.
show that for us, so we don't have to do a whole lot of talking.
There you go.
Live music. Several local folks, I think, are taking the stage first.
Okay.
Dylan Leggett, I believe,
yeah,
will be
yeah.
there, and I think there are some others. I'm sorry, I blanked. But then the main entertainment's Confederate Railroad.
oh, so
if you
this
remember
really
them
is a party. This
from
is
years
just
gone
This is a
by.
party.
So
This is
it'll
a
be some
party.
great music that the chef at Downstream caters.
Absolutely.
We have a great meal. There'll be a live auction, and last year we added a silent auction, so there'll be
Very
another
cool.
silent auction.
Yeah.
And then we have a little boutique, we call it, that we will sell. We'll have some clothing and different things that we'll have to sell there.
Lots
Okay.
of 25th anniversary items.
Yeah,
this
that'll be
year
cool.
because
Collector's items.
Yeah,
Yeah.
collector's items.
oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And so that'll be primarily, that's the focus of the store this
Mm-hmm.
year. And it's always fun, though. We have this wonderful little horseshoe wall. We call it the
yeah.
horseshoe wall, and all these little individual decorated horseshoes. And people just love to come
Our clients
collect
and
those.
families and
Yes.
volunteers will decorate them up. So there, you've got everything from Christmas decorated horseshoes
Oh,
to
cool.
blingy ones
Yeah.
to just the whole gamut.
A to Z, and the people they make them all year long.
Oh, really?
I don't know for sure how many are up there.
There's 100 horseshoes.
100.
Okay.
And if
Okay.
you pick horseshoe number 10, you're going to pay $10 for it.
Oh,
If you
okay.
pick horseshoe 30, you pay $30
Okay.
for it. And we've always sold out the wall, and whenever the whole thing sells, I want to say it's $5,000.
Sure,
it's
yeah,
some
right.
great
And I think
amount
it
of money.
always makes more than that.
Yeah.
It does.
Because
Right.
people give more money. So
yeah.
it's just such a
Well, and
gracious, people are so gracious. to us.
Inevitably, by the end, kind of partway through the evening, some generous person, and it's been a different person every year, says,
Mm-hmm.
well, whatever's left, put
I'll
it on
take
my
'em."
tab.
Nice.
But then they leave the shoes up there.
Oh,
So then we'll still keep selling them.
yeah. Oh,
We just
there
We
you
can
go.
still keep
Yeah.
selling them, but then whatever might be left, they pick up the rest.
Yeah.
And so,
I like
yeah.
that strategy.
I like
That's a
it.
good one.
It's yeah, people
Sell
are
'em
so
twice.
people are so generous.
Yeah.
And Jim actually came up with that notion of that prior to us. We tried a piece of this idea
Mm-hmm.
at our dinner theater one year, where you put money envelopes up there with the same principle.
Okay.
So 1 through 100, and they had done that, I believe, at his church.
Okay.
And so he brought that idea to us even ahead of time, and so it's just fun to see how we've taken that. But now people just love that horseshoe wall, and they want to come get one,
Yeah.
and they give them as gifts, have them on their tree, just a variety. They're an actual real horseshoe.
Okay, yeah.
That we get, we save them off of our horses that we shoe all year long, and so they're decorated, and people love them.
That's so cool. Jim's full of good ideas.
Oh my
Yes,
gosh,
he is. He
that
is,
brain
so.
keeps going all the time.
How many
Yes.
years has the gala been going on?
I want to say this is the 5th. Maybe
That's what I was thinking,
I think
too.
it's the 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I think so.
So.
Has it always been at Downstream too?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great place to have it.
Yes.
Oh
It's all
man,
right there.
and they
Yes.
put together such a great. They decorate for us, and it always looks beautiful.
Yeah, the food's awesome. There's
Food's
plenty
great.
of space.
Yeah.
You know.
And the beauty is that we just don't, as a staff, have to do a ton for that.
Right,
He
right.
handles that so well. And that's helpful because our time available now is even
Right.
less than it used to be. And so our time for fundraising takes an inordinate amount of time.
Right.
And so that's very helpful to us. And we take in a couple of miniature horses and have a little photo booth.
That's cool.
And set up for people to take their pictures, and people love to take their pictures with the miniatures. And so it's just a great time. But if anybody knows Jim Adams on Facebook, then they know he supports many projects in this area of Southwest Missouri and Southeast Kansas and Northeast Arkansas. I mean, Jim is such a supportive individual himself of many things. I just, every time I look on Facebook, he's supporting someone else.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a very giving individual.
Yeah. Good to have him on your team.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it, kind of in the vein of fundraising and the COVID shutdown, the other thing that shutting down has taught us is kind of how to do some little online fundraising.
Sure. Yeah.
Which we had never really ever tried before or thought of. We maybe tried it once, and it was such an utter failure that
Right.
I don't think we.
an epic failure.
It was an
Yeah.
epic
Oh, yeah.
failure.
That's okay.
But
Those happen.
we've kind of figured out how to do some online kind of things that take minimal effort, but
Generate some dollars.
generate
Yeah.
some income.
Absolutely.
And,
And then anyone can donate at any time,
Absolutely.
right? I mean,
Absolutely.
Is that like a website or
Yeah.
nice?
Yeah, you can go to our webpage, which is kind of in the reconstruction phase, but horsesofhope.com, and there's a donate button right there that takes you to our PayPal that you could
Nice.
make donations that way as well. Because, talking to someone, and I still might try to do this before the gala, was somebody said, well, what do you think a bag of feed cost you 25 years ago versus now?
Oh, yeah.
And it's
Oh my goodness.
an inordinate.
Yeah.
Al was
jump.
just telling me about another price increase we've just had in feed. And I can't remember, I don't have the amounts in my head. I probably should, but it makes me shudder. So
Yeah, right.
I
try not to
I
think
kind of
about
think
it.
a bag of equine senior, Purina Equine Senior, which we've fed and used, I want to say about probably 20 some years ago, it was $10, $11 a bag, and I thought that was outrageous. And now it's well over 20 some dollars a bag.
I'd say it's high 20s.
Yeah.
There's some feed, a supplement we feed, a fat source, what we call a fat source, to help a thinner, older horse.
Right.
That just has a hard time holding their weight a little bit. It's a Purina product, I believe. Yes, I'm
Yeah, I
accurate
think
on
so.
that.
I think
It's called
so.
Amplify. It's close to almost $50 a pound.
Golly. And see, that's
Now,
the thing you don't
it's a
think about.
supplement, so you're feeding certainly less
small
of it
amount.
than
Yeah.
you would a feed ration amount, but each of our horses are on specific diets.
Right,
and
that's
so,
what I was thinking.
It's no different than us as humans. The needs
Right.
are different, and so we try to certainly be as economical minded as we can, and we
Yeah.
watch it often, because occasionally, one will get a little heavy and they need to be in the Jenny Craig pen, so to speak. And
Yeah.
and so we watch that. And now with hay costs due to the drought, thank
Yeah.
goodness for the rain today, but a little bit too late for the
Right.
hay crop. But hay is really high this year. We've all tried to stock up so that we can be a bit ahead of that before it goes really crazy, but it's pretty crazy right now.
Right.
$10 and $12 for a bale of hay is a lot of money.
Yeah, right.
For a small
right.
bale of hay.
And you go through a lot of those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's the
And-
thing you don't think about, because you said end of life horses, and they're going to need special
Yes.
care and whatnot, not
Absolutely.
just a bag
And
of
we-
oats or something.
We
It's-
raise our own hay, but we would tip it on our farm in
Yeah.
Kansas, Bermuda hay, but we only got one cutting this year.
Oh,
And so, actually we got two, didn't we? We
One
finally
square,
ended up
yeah.
with...
Large,
But we would usually get like 3 and
Oh.
much more amounts of hay than
Right.
we got on both of these. So we didn't even think we were maybe going to make a second cutting. And so we don't usually have to buy this much outside
Sure.
hay, but we've made sure that we're in good shape
Good.
numbers wise
Right.
for each herd at each place. So a couple of larger items that we're in need of that might, I don't know who's listening to this and what kind of angels there are out there flying around, but we are in serious need. We have raised, we've raised $6,500.
I think so.
I think it's $6,500 toward about $10,000 worth of big fans, ceiling fans that go up in the top of the arenas. For our Kansas barn, we went grant funding, and then some local supporters have given. There's about $3,500 left to raise on that. And those barns, we ride about, anywhere from 70 to 90 people. Used to be over 100 in the days of COVID in Kansas a week. But we'll ride on the average 70 or 80 people a week there. And when it's hot, I mean, those fans would be, we've used big kinds of fans like
just big,
the big
barrel fans.
Barrel fans,
Right,
thank
right.
you. And then pedestal big ones, but it doesn't work like the nice ones that are up in
and
the
they're
air.
so loud.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Those,
A
so
lot of
loud.
dust and
Yeah.
whatnot. They're coming from
Yes.
the ceiling. It's more of a
It's
natural
quiet,
flow,
yeah.
quiet.
And that barn in Kansas is designed to pull air in. I mean, it's designed well to bring air from
Yeah.
all four directions. But and we already have heat in that barn. A donor many, many years ago at Dinner Theater bought our heaters for us. But we need heaters in Missouri as well as fans, and those all run, they're all in the $10,000 range, or probably a bit more, but like a $20,000 need at least in Missouri at that farm, and then like I say, $3,500 or so at the Kansas barn. So anybody who is interested in fans or heat for those facilities, would be an incredible gift for us to receive.
Yeah, it really would.
And I know people will be looking at year-end giving at this quarter, and so anybody out there that needs a place, we're there.
Absolutely.
We're there.
And it's
So-
not just the huge gifts, because we've lived a long time on the $20 donation.
Sure. Yeah.
Lots of people that'll
Lots
send their
and lots of
$20 every month
Wow.
has gone a long way over
Yeah.
the years.
We have a woman who, for many, many years, she donated miniature horses to us, 2 of them, many years ago. And we actually then, it was a mare and a foal, and she's from out of town, but in the Kansas area, and she we lost the little mama then to old age, and then finally many years later the second one just died of old age, and that woman has continued to give us a monthly gift ever since she donated,
and even
those
after
horses,
they passed.
and even after they passed. And I believe is still
does
donating.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's incredible to be that that committed
Yeah.
to
Sure.
a program.
Yeah.
And she's been our guest many times at different things, been invited and been our guest, and it's just very interesting to me, because and Val is accurate. We've said for many years that we have made it on the $25 man, you know, and Val, tell about our fundraiser with the clients, the little kids that bring their money at the Derby.
Well, we do a fundraiser in the spring, the Run for the Roses. So for the whole month of April, clients join the team for their horse, and volunteers and staff all pick their favorite horse, and you spend the whole month of April raising money to help your horse be the Run for the Roses champion, which the Kentucky Derby is always the first Saturday in May. So that's when our Run for the Roses will end, is the first Saturday in May. And the horse and team that have raised the most money get a Kentucky Derby party that we'll throw at the barn. So we'll have at the barn, every horse has a little bucket with their name on it, and every week they bring their money in and put it in. And so, we have one little fella, he actually used to save his money to give it to us at Dinner Theater, but he would all year long do chores for Mom and Grandma, and he'd get a quarter and a nickel and a dollar, and he would save it, and at Dinner Theater he would bring it to present that this is to go towards his horse Grip.
Oh my gosh.
And so here he'd come with his little jar of money, and he would have, $40-50 in there maybe. Well, at Dinner Theater, So never fails. Some old farmer goes, come here. And he'll put a 50 or something in
Yeah,
there. So
yeah.
kind of going off of that concept, the clients every week, they bring their change in that they've gathered from everybody.
Right.
And we, this year, that little month-long fundraiser of just clients and people gathering change and asking for donations from friends, I think we were, I want to say, was it 13,000? I think our goal was 14, and we were just shy. It was a great fundraiser.
That's
it was
awesome.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
In that month, that they'd come in every week, and we have a leaderboard, so
Yeah.
every week we update it, and
Yeah.
they'd come and see where their horse is, and
And little kids that
That's
just
so
bring
cool.
bags
Yeah.
bags of money.
change and money
and-
that and it'd be sticky
Val would
money
just
that
be
they've
pounding.
they've dug it out of someone's ashtray that
Yeah.
had been there a long time in their car. So yeah, it's incredible that just bringing in your change every
Yeah.
week, the money that can raise to help.
That
It's
seems
amazing.
something that would be good for like the website, to have the pictures of the horse, and then
Yes.
underneath, like where people could, if they didn't even
Absolutely.
come to the
Right.
farm, they
Yeah.
could just
Yeah.
pick a horse and be
Right.
like, I like Daisy, give her
Right.
$5.
Absolutely.
Maybe we could do that in the future. That'd
Yes.
be really cool.
Yeah.
If it's that successful,
It is.
coming
It
to
is.
It's
Yeah.
very
And you know what?
successful.
We'll probably at the gala. Brett Worsler is our auctioneer
Oh,
every year.
Very cool.
And he was auctioneer at the dinner theater every year. And Brett will auction a handful of hope. And what that's for is to go towards the annual care of the horses, which we need to refigure this amount because I know it's not right. But for years, we've gone off of about $3,000 a year to care for a horse,
For one horse.
for one horse. Now that's, hay, grain, farrier, vet expense, just,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's more than that now, but we haven't sat and refigured it. But people can donate. At dinner theater, we'd lead the horse out in the middle of dinner theater
Yeah.
that happened there at the barn, and people would donate. You might get the whole year taken care of. You might get somebody that says, I can give you $500 for it.
Right. Right.
But get your horse's expenses for the year covered that way. So, yeah,
That
there's
was one of the main income producers in that fundraising event.
at the dinner
the
theater.
That
handful
would
of hope.
well, that and the horse sponsorship.
Just showing,
Oh, I
yeah,
gotcha.
the sponsorship.
That would.
Yes,
Right.
and so they would. We've brought in easily $30,000 on that portion of the
Yeah.
fundraiser. It was very large.
But that's a great idea to have that
Pictures on
picture,
Yeah.
have it on the website
Yeah,
where people
'cause-
can do that.
Right, when you said you led the horse out, then the people can see the horse. And
Yeah.
like,
Right.
I don't know, they're Daisy, but they're like, wow,
Exactly.
they can make a connection.
Yeah.
Right.
And when they're like, oh, 3,000. I mean, I'm not an old
Right.
farmer, but
Right.
they would,
Right.
throw
But
it
you
out
sure,
there.
Right.
or just I can give you $250
Yeah.
towards that
Right.
horse's care. Where you
Right.
get enough people to do that, you've
and
got
Brett
them
will
covered.
quickly tell them, it takes,
Right.
it only takes, 12, 14, whatever it is, of $250. How many of those do we have in the room?
Yeah.
And so he's very good
Yeah, that's
at
good.
making sure that,
I know he did
those
that kind of
monies
stuff.
are right.
He's another talented
Brett,
guy.
he is another very talented guy who's been incredibly supportive because he is also our end of life gentleman who actually prepares the ground for our
Okay.
horses when we lose them.
Sure.
And so he knows how much Vallerie and our family is very, very specific and very reverent about how we lay our horses down and put them in the ground, and we're that whole process that goes in on that. Hardest part of our jobs that we do, but Brett for many years now has been our man, and
awesome.
he will come and take care of us. Hottest day, coldest day,
Yeah.
whatever.
No
And
questions
so,
asked.
yeah,
Yeah.
no questions
That's
asked.
cool to keep that, whole process sacred.
Yes.
He comes in there and respects
Yes.
that. And,
He's very
yeah,
respectful.
That's
very
awesome.
respectful. Of course, his daughter has ridden with us for many years.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So their family is another one who's very committed to
Yes.
who we are and what
Yeah.
we do. So
Yeah, it's the old adage, blood, sweat, and tears. You two leading the charge, and then it's kind of cool to see everybody in the community come together and offer what they have. Whether it's money or
yes,
Brett with he's auctioneer
back
too,
pedal.
with his
Yeah.
voice and
Yeah.
his tools, and
that's right. That's
it's cool to
right.
see all that come together.
Yes, that's just it's phenomenal. Really, that's been fun to watch over the years and to be a part of, and supporting that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Earlier when we were talking about the horse only having X amount of time to do the therapy work,
mm-hmm.
is that also part of it's the physical part? They get tired or whatnot, but is there also an emotional or a spiritual thing going on there?
Yeah.
To where they
we've
get overloaded?
just this past week, one of our staff brought it to our attention. Shelly and I weren't in on this session, but with a client who dissociates while working with the horse. So you've got a horse that needs connection, a horse that's a herd animal, and you've got a horse that's having to they're there to be in relationship with someone who's not there, and the horse dissociated as well.
Whoa.
And what she did, he said, is she walked. They were leading and she walked, but he said her eyes were just closing, and then she just kept stumbling. She just would kind of stumble and things that normally this horse does not do.
Right.
But he said also you had the client who was on the lead rope was also very dissociated and not present, going through the motions but not really there.
Yeah.
And so, those are things that we've seen horses after some serious sessions over the years kind of become sick.
Wow.
That they need a definite break. We're very blessed at all of our locations that our horses, we have great turnout pastures and that we can give the horses a real break. Some locations that, they don't have tons of good turnout pasture. Horses have to live in stalls. And we're fortunate that we can let our horses have turnout time, go out with other horses just to be a horse, decompress,
Sure.
and get away from it. Because even though physically it doesn't seem near as draining as what if they had a person on their back, but sometimes with the things we're dealing with emotionally, they can get pretty closed off.
well, and that particular horse, I believe, had another client earlier in the day.
Sure.
That would have been most likely complex trauma as well.
Yes.
And so that amount of work that horse did that day was clearly almost too much.
Sure.
And that's not something you can necessarily plan for. So that's something that a trained eye has to certainly be aware of and watching. So for him to be able to tell us that was very, very helpful.
Absolutely.
And very helpful for the horse. And we will see that emotional drain because, see, they're holding space for you. It's no different than a therapist being right there with somebody in their moment and in their crises. And so, we call that post-secondary trauma with therapists when they're reliving what they're helping their client work with. So, or living through that with them as a client is revealing or whatever. And so a horse just takes that on. And so we've seen several different things. One horse that's very quiet and calm and just very slow moving and purposeful. She's wanted to start kind of rushing out of the arena when we're done. I don't mean running over anybody. I just mean for her, just a little
out of
pushy
character.
and just a little odd, quick kind of behavior for her, and that's very peculiar because that lets us know she's needing to get out, get away,
right.
And so it's pretty. Well, it's very grave work, and I mean it's very serious work, and you are holding space, and that space is holding all of this, and so is the horse on the give and take. And so when you think about those words, attunement and co-regulate, if that horse is really working with that client, then on that level that we really don't have verbiage to give to it because we don't have those words or that's studied to prove what's happening there, but we know something serious is happening. And so it's not doing harm to anyone, but we have to be very concerned that it is not doing harm to our horse in the meanwhile. So we have to take care of them as ethically as we take care of each other as staff members and then our clients.
Right. They are beings too.
Yes.
They take on those energies. And they need time to
Absolutely.
Are you familiar with Dr. Gabor Mate?
Yes.
Okay, so I recently read his book, Myth of Normal, right? Myth of Normal, yeah.
Okay.
And he talks about how he went down to the Amazon, and he's done several of the ayahuasca ceremonies down there. But one ceremony, he brought together all these different therapists from all over the world, and it was just it was almost like a retreat for therapists. And they were going to do 4 or 5 ayahuasca ceremonies. Well, they did one. And the first night, and then the next day, the shamans came to him, Dr. Gabor Mate, and said, "You can't participate anymore. Like you have to be over here with your personal shamans." And he's like, "What? Why? Like I'm the one that put this all together. Like these people came to see me." And they go, "Well, you have a darkness inside of you that we don't really see a lot of the times." And he was like, "Oh, okay, well."
Whoa,
so yeah, so he got to have several ceremonies. One-on-one with, I don't know, 3 or 4 shamans, but what turned out to be what they kind of guessed at what would happen was he has, what did you call it, secondary
Post-
he had
secondary
taken
trauma.
on so much trauma from his clients and never cleared his systems. And so they said that we do it all the time. These shamans, like we come into contact with other people's trauma and darkness and what they're struggling with all the time, but we take care of ourselves. We flush it out. So we thought you guys would do the same.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes me think of the horse, where
Yes.
they need to go
Right.
out and they need to
Yes.
gallop and they need
They
to.
need to have,
Go be with
Get to be a
her
horse.
in
Right,
connection, in
right.
safety once again.
Yes.
So movement, how they need to, whatever they do as a horse and as an animal to connect in safety with one another.
Right.
Because I watched them all as I came in this morning. It was raining really hard, and they were all there together. Taking care of the elements that were coming, but you could just see they were near enough to one another that if somebody needed help or
Right.
somebody needed to alert the herd to get out, they could. It was
Right.
very interesting
Very
to
attuned
see,
with one
yes,
another.
see how,
Yeah.
yes, very much so, to see how they were fighting off that weather,
Yeah.
and it was very interesting to see that, because that's just what they do in the natural.
Yeah.
It
It reminds me of like a school of fish, and I don't think I've ever, thought of a herd of horses like a school of fish. But now that you've kind of talked about the attunement, it's like that kind of in the wild, at least, when there's a big herd, they do kind of move in that flowy way, and they're very aware of, they probably put the babies and the older ones in the middle, or I don't know if they do that. But
If
something
they
like
were
that.
to have to fight, they say wild horses will circle up. If the wolves or something
Yeah.
were coming, they'll circle to protect the babies, and
Yeah, I mean, so that's so to have that natural way of living, and then we, separate them like we do. It's a lot of animals, but yeah.
Right. And it's interesting. We've had show horses donated to us. That we have one in Oklahoma that he was a show horse that would have been kept in a stall all the
Sure.
time. And that's just the opposite of what they would want. They
Yeah.
want to be connected with other horses. And so you tend to get different kinds of ill behaviors because of, well, they're very bored, or they want to be with
Yeah.
others, or they just want to play, or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, he came to live at the Oklahoma farm, and it just became a horse. And
Yeah.
he out in the pasture
Sure.
with the horse. We thought he suffered from a condition where the light was an issue for him, but then we realized that wasn't an issue, and so he could do that successfully being out. And he is the happiest horse.
That's awesome.
By not having to
it
be.
took him a while to figure
Yeah,
it out.
Right.
he
Well,
had
he,
to kind of.
he fell in love with the mares. We made the
Oh.
mistake, and he worried like 100 or more pounds off.
Yes.
Like
Wow.
fretting over the mares. So we
Yes.
had to just move him like way across the property where he couldn't even see the mares.
Right.
And yeah, it was for him
Was
to learn how
hard.
to be a horse was a hard
Right.
process for him.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And vice versa with the clients coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they're not remembering how to be a human, but I guess it's learning how to have relations.
It's to
and
healthy,
to connect, and
safe
to-
relationships.
Right. Having somebody, because a lot of times it seems like their family members, the people that are supposed to hold that space,
Right.
don't.
They don't.
And it probably has to be the most traumatic of all.
Exactly.
If a friend
Yes.
betrays you, then there's other
Right.
people you can be friends with. But if your mom or
It's
your dad or
family,
your
yeah.
grandfather, whatever.
Yeah.
So I like how each angle is
Yeah.
the clients are affecting the horses, and the horses
And
are
Mm-hmm.
affecting the clients.
within
It's very
ther-
much a two-way
Yeah.
street.
Two-way street,
Within
yeah.
therapeutic riding, even though they go to the barn, they're not there for physical therapy or mental health therapy. it's still all about that safety and connection
Yes.
and relationship. Because the clients really rely on seeing their horse every week, seeing
Yeah.
their staff and volunteers. They get very connected. It really creates a whole social circle for them that they really don't get otherwise.
Right.
And so it's still even happening there, even though our
In that
instructors, it's giving them that safety and connection, not providing mental health therapy,
Sure.
but it is providing mental
Yeah.
health therapy.
It's like organic.
It is.
Right.
It's
It
a
is
wonderful
organic,
side
yes.
effect of getting to go learn how to ride a horse or take care of a horse. It's a wonderful side effect that they get the great movement of the horse. It's so physically beneficial, and all of this other mental health aspect of being connected, being safe.
Right.
You know, it's a great side effect of therapeutic riding.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I saw.
It's
Sorry.
their well, I was just going to say it's their horses. They call it, we're going to horses, or we're going to the barn, or
Yeah.
it's that set of family and support and connection.
Right.
That's a very big deal to them. If you think of you take a person, just pick a person that you know that's disabled, they're just not integrated real well into our society. We don't support that. They can't hustle as fast as we can. I mean,
Sure.
if you just stop and think about all the challenges they have, it's way different than you and I. Life moves at a different rate of
Right,
speed,
right.
and they come into a welcoming environment that's so warm, and then people and animals and our dogs and all of that make up our farm settings are right there for them.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to watch that. I love to watch parents or caregivers or whomever before COVID, but I watch them. Typically, they might stay in their car now, but typically they would be sitting out on the front porch under the awning of the barn, or they might be under a tree at some seating we have. But the respite that's provided for the caregiver or the family was been so interesting to watch,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
truly their client or their child, family member actually looks normal for an
Yeah.
hour. For that
Yeah.
ride time,
Right.
they're normal. They're riding a horse. That's what lots of other people do. And so to watch that, I said if I ever was going to do a doctoral program, I would certainly look at the effects of disabilities on the family systems, which that's been studied a lot. But when they come and actually get to be a part, celebrate the part of their child being very successful in that
Yeah.
moment in time, and they're happy to be there, and you have very little fallout. I mean, you will have fallout. I'm not going to say we don't have that, because we do, but for the most part, it's more a pleasant experience of their week,
Yeah.
as opposed to the
Doctor's
other
visits
yes,
or
doctor's
something that can
visits
be,
or whatever. Val, I want you to tell the story of the little boy that came with the PT Randy, and when he was little bitty with the miniature and his tumor on his spine.
A little fella that was having to go through physical therapy. They'd had to remove a tumor from his spine. And so prior to the removal of the tumor, it had been pressing on his spine. And so he wasn't walking,
wow.
had lost some function. But then after they had removed it, he'd regained, he should have been able to regain function. So going to physical therapy, he'd had so much therapy, he just screamed and fought the whole time. They weren't really accomplishing much. So the therapist, Randy Bullard, is a therapist. He'd been a long-time therapist in the Joplin area and did a lot with Horses of Hope in our early days. He said, bring him to the barn, meet me at the barn. So they brought this little guy out, and just for Randy to get to work on his standing balance and doing things that he just fought Randy like a bear in the clinic, he could do. We stood a pony there. Randy'd drop a little dirt on the pony, and the little boy would reach to brush it off. So there he's weight shifting. He was
Yeah.
doing things that Randy could kind of sneak in there, you know.
Yeah.
And we were in the arena. Randy had walked with him. He'd come for several sessions, and we were in the arena, and we were driving a pony. And the little guy was walking with Randy to to do it. And Randy has done a lot with show ponies and show horses. And so the trick is you grab a handful of dirt and you sprinkle it to get the pony to put their ears up and to do things. And so the little fella had seen Randy do that. Well, all on his own, he was standing there. He reached down, got his handful of dirt and threw it up in the air. Well, all of that motion, that range of motion and balancing and doing that was huge.
Yeah.
That to get him to have done that in a clinical setting, they just weren't getting it because he was fighting so much.
Yeah.
So just the novelty of the setting, and that was before we'd ever put the little boy on. Once he was cleared to get on the horse, then they saw great improvement and strengthening and that kind of thing. Yeah.
And pretty quickly,
That's amazing.
The Alan tells the story about the little guy was feeding at the end of the session. He'd feed the pony a little apple. Well, the pony had dropped a piece of the apple, and the little guy just let go, picked up the apple, and gave it to the pony. And he could do that, and everybody just about, couldn't.
And then
my
shortly,
gosh, he just bent down and got up on his own, and
Yeah.
This little guy was very impaired.
And right there, that was right in the, I think it was right around Thanksgiving time that the mom told us that she's in the kitchen cooking, and he was in the living room, and he needed her for something, and he had got up and walked to the kitchen to get her, and that was the first time, so they were seeing then the carryover away from the barn of him doing some things. I remember her being ecstatic over that he was doing that. So I think that little guy went on to play high school football.
Did he really?
I believe so, yeah.
Wow.
He's
my
probably
goodness.
25 years old now.
That's
but
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Big boy, yeah.
That's such a testament, like you said, the set and setting, where if he was in the, I don't want to
That clinical setting.
Well, I was just
exactly.
I was just in I've just had a knee replacement, and I was rehabbing it, doing physical therapy in Springfield, and I just heard this little child just wailing, just wailing, and the whole time prior to me going back and then coming back out and doing something, and bless that little child's heart, just wait. I mean, there was nothing they could. I mean, whatever it was, he was not going to have it, and I just thought of that. I just am so reminded of that story because this little guy had no idea. He thought he was brushing a pony or feeding him an apple or watching him drive, or
which he was.
Yeah,
he was, right.
But in the very sense of it, he was doing the therapy and helping him get to the next level that they couldn't really get through in a therapeutic setting.
Almost like the mental blocks were removed.
Yeah.
Because I'm around a horse, I'm having a good time, and an apple fell.
Yes.
Rather than let's reach down for the block.
Right, reach down, pick up the ball.
Right. And now he has to think about it. It hurts or whatever's stopping him.
Right.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. It really is. And we've seen... We have story after story of things like that. I think of
the family that had a child with on the autism spectrum, very high functioning, very very verbal, but just his coordination and things just were very difficult for him. And sometimes with little guys, as they ride, we play catch. We'll throw a ball to them, they'll catch it and throw it back to us. And so I've had a mother and a grandmother that this same story happened with. That we're just playing and going through the course of our usual therapeutic riding routine, and little guys catch a ball and throw it back to me, and I have family members standing watching crying because he's never caught a ball before, and he's certainly never thrown it on target, thrown it to you
accurately.
And that happens on the back of the horse because that movement of the horse is so organizing and regulating to them that lets them do that. But two different families that it's like, oh, why is grandma crying?
Everything okay?
He's never caught a ball before.
Which is a very normal thing for a kid to do.
Exactly.
And for them to see that.
For them to get to see that happen.
And that's why
incredible.
I say that's their hour of normal, because then success happens very naturally, very innately, very organically.
Yeah.
But it's their opportunity for that, and it's just, we don't know at all how powerful of a moment that really is for that family member.
Yeah.
It's very impacting, and so it's just special to be the one that gets to be, our riding instructors, they're very moved by that. We have very compassionate instructors that love their work, and they love the horses and the children and family members, and that's fun to watch because this will weed out the people who aren't real. this organization, and it's not by anything
Well, it's
Val
hard
and I
work.
do.
Sure.
It's hard
Number
work.
one, they realize it's very hard work.
Right.
And then number two, you have to be willing to stick with it. It's cold outside. It's hot outside. It stinks.
It's
There's
dirty.
poop.
Yeah.
It's dirty. There's flies. So once you wade through all of the pitfalls of being a part of this, then does it still hold the hope for you?
Yeah.
And that's been very interesting for Val and I to watch over the years. Many people have come through either as volunteers or professionals or friends or whoever, and they might be there for a season, they might be there for a short spell, they may go away, we never see them again. We wonder what in the world, but
Right.
That's about them, and
Sure.
it took us a long time to probably figure that out. We often worried maybe that what had we done, where did they go, and
no doubt.
and really it's about them, but that's their business. But at the same time,
And regardless of how long people stay, we hear almost without fail, your volunteers will say, this is really therapy for me. It's very therapeutic for those volunteers to come and help the clients see all those little daily mini victories that they have and improvements that they make, get to be connected with the horses and the other staff and people around. We hear from just about every person that comes through how therapeutic it is for them to be involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I think of myself many times. We've presented many times to many types of audiences and people, and we have often said it's amazing because we get to see miracles every day.
Yeah.
And I think probably one of the things that I would have to say over 25 years and going from a 40-year-old to a 65-year-old and my own aging and staging process, if you will. But I think the miracles we see now are incredibly more impacting. And I guess I'd have to entitle this doggone podcast Incredible. I just found myself saying that word. I need to dream up a better one here. But
It's a good word.
it is
It
a great
is.
word. But it's the intensity of the miracle for me has grown in a lot of depth. The depth of it, the power of what the horse and is allowing us to facilitate, the process that we are facilitating. I feel like that in the arena when we're doing mental health work that we're kind of a vessel, because there is no way for Val and I to predict an outcome or set something up for an outcome or think that we know what a horse is going to do. How trite of us to give ourselves that much credit. We have a foundation of our work, but then it take the minute the client comes onto the property, it takes on its own. It's then about that client or that set of clients. So we have the belief that whatever that client or that group, whatever that client truly needs to have for that day, is what we need to vessel or funnel that for that client or be a part of holding that sacred space, because it's about them, and it's about us being able to be stewards of that time. And so I think as we have just grown in intensity in this work, when we say we see miracles every day, we saw some things last Tuesday with horses and children that you could give us the most rotten day of all due to systemic dysfunction on any farm you want to pick or any business you want to go to.
Sure.
And I could say, but if we can provide that for
Right.
these children and have those kinds of things happen for those children, then when I lay my head down tonight, then I've done what I'm supposed to do for this day.
Yeah.
And it's that much more powerful. And I think it's the intensity now of the work we're being called to do and allowed to do, I guess. I don't know, but that's because we've said that for a lot of years. Yeah. And I don't know, it just feels like to me that the intensity is quite a bit greater.
Yeah. You think
But
maybe,
if we look at the state of our world
true.
that we're all living in right now, is certainly way different than 1997.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, think about that. So look what's changed just in
Just
our
the
world,
environment around us.
environment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Society in general.
Yes.
Individuals in general.
Yes. So the horses have not changed.
Yeah.
So we know
They
it's
are
not
constant.
about them.
Yeah.
They
They
are
are.
constant.
Yeah.
You know, the ground, the earth, the farm, the setting, that's constant.
Which is like the one thing that most
But
humans
what
don't
is
have.
happening exactly. But what is happening to people has changed. With people, for people, around people. How people choose to respond. I mean, it's kind of a heavy discussion. I never thought of it really in that depth.
Yeah.
But when I say that to you now, it's like,
Yeah.
man, yeah, that's why is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's the change, people changing.
right.
So I don't believe the horses and the
No.
earth and the farm
No.
and
Yeah.
the barns. You know, those
Yeah.
things aren't changing.
Yeah.
The world is changing. People are changing. Things are happening that didn't happen, or more so or less. You know.
Yeah. Right. And what other way would you notice that? That change
Yeah.
between the 25 years that you've been doing
Yes.
this, unless you were involved in something like this, to where you can say,
That's right.
hey, 10 years ago, we weren't dealing with this much of this,
Well,
or
And I think we know quite a bit more. We've
Sure,
educated
yeah.
ourselves, and research has taught us, and we've been able to learn. Because I think about early clients that Val and I would have started with when we were doing this from an equine assisted learning standpoint. So we would have had mental health children come on and along with us in summer programming for several years. And we knew that this kind of equine assisted mental health work was really powerful. And we were doing it more under not as therapeutic minded, more of a learning experiential standpoint, because this is experiential therapy. But I don't think we knew as much then
Sure.
either.
No.
Yeah.
And so we wouldn't, as we've learned along the way and become much more clear about and learned about neurophysiology and the neural networks of the brain and how they function with and without trauma and how they heal and grow and change, there's no way that can't be a deeper situation for us as we watch it unfold right in front of us.
Yeah.
So that's
Well, we're
kind of
lucky today in society. We're taking mental health more seriously than we
Yes.
did, decades ago.
Yes.
And like you said, there's more research into it, because it's almost that woo-woo part. Like, what, you're going to study horses? Like,
Yeah.
we are, and we have ways to measure them. And we have ways
Right.
to say that they are affecting us more than we are affecting them. And
Yes.
that's many different fields. Psychedelics are kind of doing that same thing
Right.
with trauma.
Right.
There's breathing techniques, the Reiki from Baldwin. She
Right.
studied that. But there's all kinds of these. I don't want to call them like sideline type stuff. Or they're not mainstream.
kinds of therapy.
Alternative
Kinds of therapy.
That are actually coming
Yeah.
more and more.
Well, they're studying
taking-
it
They're
very
finding
closely.
Yes,
the
becoming
the
more and more serious.
science behind it of why it works.
Yeah, which is great, because we need all the tools we can get.
yeah.
But it's because of the Gabors and all of those folks who
Right.
studied the brain and studied neurophysiology to the degree that we've just learned so much more to be able to talk top down versus bottom up. All of
Right.
those kinds of things we talk about in terms of neuroscience, in the brain and how that functions. So I think we know so much more. I used to say in the olden days, if you're any organ in your body, we're pretty good at fixing, but not your brain so much.
Right.
And there's a lot of truth to that.
Right.
Because I think the intricate nature, the very complex nature of the brain, we're just starting to uncover
Yes.
how that brain works and how that organ works. And so it was amazing the other day. I've had the opportunity over the last 2 years to really see how many grandparents are raising grandchildren
Yeah.
because of lost children of their own, typically due to drugs and alcohol. And it's very interesting because there's a certain age and stage there that still, we're very much into looking at mental health as such a important and critical piece of our overall health and well-being as humans. But I just did an intake with a group of people, a set of grandparents not long ago, and it was amazing because it was just like, no, there's nothing wrong with my
stigma.
grandchild. That whole stigma is, why in the world would we need to put a diagnosis on? And it was that whole rhetoric of what is wrong. There's something wrong. No, it's not about what is wrong.
Yeah.
But what could possibly be more healthy
Right.
or helpful, and that was a very difficult discussion.
Oh, I bet.
And it was an age and stage of people that certainly most likely would be really reticent to look at their own mental health.
Yeah.
And we're okay. You accept it and move on.
Right.
Well,
I've lived this long with it. I'm good.
yeah, and you have 3 days to get over grief, and let's move on. Well, okay, but
Yeah.
so it's just very interesting because those people are still out there. I think
Yeah.
we've made some headway in regards to the field of mental health, and are making it, and certainly being right in the middle of it. It seems like we're doing better, but boy, then you get landblasted with
Sure.
some of that's still out there,
Yeah.
and lots of it, and so it's. Yeah, it's
Everybody needs
amazing to
healing.
watch.
I don't know
yeah.
anybody that's just good to go.
No.
I don't either.
Yeah.
No.
But it's amazing because why does everybody need healing? What do you mean everybody? I'm fine.
Right.
Well,
Right.
really?
Like, open that
Fine.
door inside your heart. Let's see what's
Yeah.
behind door number one.
Let's see what's back there.
It's not fun.
It's not the pleasant door number one. But yeah. And so I've always thought there's a time and place for a therapist in a person's life. And because at any time you are diseased, not that you have a disease. And any kind of diagnosis, obviously, coming out of a DSM is coming from a medical model.
Right.
And so it's going to look like disease. It's
Right.
going to look like some disorder. It's going to
Right.
look very medical because that's where it comes from. And as the longer I go and the more I see, I don't even know. I think a lot of it is very much trauma, types of trauma,
Right.
complex layered trauma. And is it really a diagnosis or is it a response to trauma?
Yeah.
I think we could almost ask that question
Right.
sometimes. And I'm very much a therapist who doesn't love to put a label on because I just,
good.
To label somebody based, I don't know. I'd have to be with them a while before. But our reimbursement process doesn't look at it that way. They'd like you to get that diagnosis on there for
Yeah.
you to get paid, for you to
Right,
do
right,
business, right?
right.
That's really hard for me as an old lady to want to be putting those labels on
Yeah,
because
right.
I think in some cases to be labeled with certain diagnoses can be a really heavy situation
Yeah, right.
that can follow you, and it's very hard. My internship, I worked with a client in a facility that was a lockdown facility, and he was diagnosed with schizophrenia.
That's what first when you said label,
I
that's
very
the
much
first thing I thought
I
about.
very much thought as I worked with that client, I don't believe this. I think he's on the autism spectrum. But he's done some things that have gotten himself in trouble, and they've put this big clinical label. He's wound up, homeless, or just the way the path that his life took. And his story was incredible, but it was very sad because that person, I truly will go to my grave saying he was not schizophrenic.
Yeah.
And he was a misunderstood autistic individual somewhere on that ASD spectrum.
Yeah.
And my heart is saddened, and COVID hit, and I had to leave, and I never got even to bring closure to those cases. But very sad day. But for me, I'm just sure. I fought some big battles, and they said you're going to lose, you're going to lose, you're going to lose, and I did. I mean, I did lose, but I still fought because there was nobody could really prove to me that he was really schizophrenic,
Yeah, right.
other than a Zoom psychiatrist that was going to. I don't know. It just didn't really work for me. And he
Right.
could not advocate for himself, really. And so it was a really tedious deal to be involved with.
Yeah.
But I think that's and I know there's a need. I understand all that professionally, and I don't want to get a lot of fallout from this. But
Sure.
But I'm very, as a therapist, I'm very careful to be to to figure out where I'm going to go with that client, and
That's good.
you know,
Yeah.
to the least restrictive first, you
Right,
know,
right.
and then as they prove over time that those issues may be there and be very
Yeah.
severe, then we can always change
Yeah.
that. But
yeah. Sounds like you're a good therapist.
well, I can only hope so. But
Right. You got to be gentle with
Yeah.
I mean, most of those scenarios, you know.
and I just don't ever want to get to the point that I'm calloused about it.
yeah.
Because when my heart quits
Pretty
caring,
easy.
and oh my goodness, yes, you work with hundreds of them, and you just
Yeah.
start flipping the page.
Right, right.
I'll quit before then.
I mean, that's why you take care of your inner self, you know. When you
That's
come into
right.
contact all those people,
Yeah.
you got to take care of that inner self and flush the system and keep yourself healed and on path and say, you know, this is your passion, and just stick to that passion, even if it's dusty and cold and, you know, people are showing up late or
Yeah.
you don't have volunteers. Like, that's why you guys made it 25 years.
And we've had to tell many a worker, you know, a staff member of ours that has whined and cried about things like that. You know, we've had to say, but Val, I've heard Val say many times, you'll always repeat that to the volunteer. You'll always have to tell them over and over, that's just your job.
Yeah.
Well, they should get it. I've told, okay, but, you know, and so.
It's like a therapy in itself.
And many times, tough staff meetings have had to end with, well, the bottom line is the client in the arena and the hope
Right.
that we bring for them.
Right.
And when the heart quits doing that, then this isn't the place for you.
Yeah, right. And you can tell when it's
yeah.
time. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
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 That's amazing.
The tough ones are the ones you have to call. You know,
Yeah.
that, I mean, there've been great people that have come through our lives at Horses of Hope that have been wonderful people. But their decision-making capacity is weaker. And so, you know, they were wonderful baby people with horses and clients and things, but, you know, they just couldn't make the best decision in the world.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
they'd force us to not be able to
Yeah.
have them. And those were the tough ones.
I bet
you
those
know.
were tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's on their own
Yeah.
path, though. You know,
That's
they're
right.
all
That's
growing at
right.
their own rate. And
That's right.
sometimes they're, like you said, a season they'll come through, and hopefully they've been touched and they've learned skills and
Yep.
go on their way. And other people are lifers.
That's right.
So
Right.
That's
it's all,
right.
yeah, all part of it.
That's right.
So do you think you'll go another 25? I mean, are you going to keep? What's the
10,
vision?
10 and out right
10 and
here.
out.
Val
Loud
says
and
10
clear.
Val says 10
I
and
got
out.
10 years to get them set up to carry
There you
on,
go.
and then I'm going to the river.
There you go. Which one?
She's going to the river.
Gassville.
Gassville River.
That's the dream right now.
There you
So,
go.
Yeah.
So that would entail, you know, I guess mentoring people to come up to take
Yes.
your spots.
And that's what we're in the process of doing now.
Okay.
We've got a cadre of folks that we feel are really
Some great,
strong.
We've got
Good,
some great
good.
staff.
And some younger people that are very interested in the work that, you know, because we would love for this to live on beyond
Yeah,
us. I
absolutely,
mean,
yeah.
our goal would be empowerment for them to be able to continue on to instill and bring hope to those in need. And so we're working on that now. There were some years back, I can remember we worked with a wonderful grant writer that kept talking to us about a succession plan. And she just kept pounding that on us. And I wasn't ready to hear it. You know, I was probably in my early 50s or something. And I just couldn't even see it. You know,
Right.
I just couldn't do it. And so now we're quite a bit on down the way now, more 10 years. I don't know when and where it's going to be, but Val's got that 10 down and she's headed to the river.
There you go.
And I've always said when Val's gone, I'm gone. So,
Right, yeah.
you know, we kind of joined up and did this at the hip. And so I don't know, but we'll see what life unfolds. you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. And from
I mean, we're doing the very best work that's what's interesting to me.
Yeah.
You know, my body's had all kinds of things happen to it, especially since COVID and since I got out of grad school, second graduate degree at 60s. But I've had all kinds of health issues. I mean, the dude has tried to take me out in many ways, but I'm not ready to go yet. I just doing the very best work we've ever done.
Yeah.
So I'm not
At
done.
all
I'm not
our
done yet.
locations.
Yes.
You know,
Uh-huh.
at all locations, we've just got great things happening.
Great things
across the
happening,
board.
and so it's I just keep getting new body parts. you know.
yeah.
Getting
we can
new
do that.
eyes
We
and
can do
getting
that
new
kind of stuff.
knees and getting
Keep
new
it up.
stuff. So
Yeah.
So as long as I can keep that going, I'll be right ready. One more knee and I can stop on it. I'll
There
be
you
done
go.
with it. But no, I've yeah.
You gain a lot of momentum, over 25 years.
Yeah.
Like you said, you
Oh.
learned and you've grown.
Oh,
and
that's just
Right.
it. I mean,
gotten
we're
certified
we're hitting
and-
our stride. I mean, that's.
Yeah,
I mean, we're
right.
really doing the very best work we've ever done. Now, that's the way it should be.
Right.
I mean, I would hope we would be, but it's amazing then to sit through that and live through that and be that vessel and all of that. So that's kind of amazing to watch.
It's kind of like reverse because when you're younger, you have more energy to dedicate, and you'd think, "Oh, we're going to get so much
Right.
done." But it's at the end of 25 where
Yeah.
you found the efficiency, and the terminology of what is happening, and volunteers come on. You're like, I know how to train you. I know how to teach you, and you have this whole system in place. So no wonder that things are really happening on a fast scale like that.
Well, absolutely, and I think that's where when we got invited to go to Oklahoma and launched that program down there, that's why Vallerie and I were so able to do that so quickly, and it be where it is 2 years later.
It's just 2 years in, and
and
what's
we're-
happening is incredible.
Yes, and I just think that was fun to watch us just be able to go to a brand new space.
Yeah.
Take our ponies and go, and in light of our support from our organization and be able to do that. So that's been fun to watch unfold.
Was it different working with the Native Americans? Did they have a different perspective on kind of going forward with the therapy or anything like that?
No, Jessica Mullen is the behavioral, the executive director of the behavioral health for Modoc Tribe, and I think we've told you before, she was involved with our program as a volunteer, and then came back after she went to grad school and came back as a therapist, mental health therapist, and did some work at our barn in Kansas with me, and so we had already been acquainted and done programming together, and so when she brought Val and I down there, that really placed the opportunity for us to bring these new people into Kansas.
Yeah.
Because then we were working for the tribe, and so it. But no, they don't look at anything different. She's very much about providing the best quality mental health services in that northeast region of Oklahoma that they can provide, and so MODOC certainly is looked at as providing quality behavioral health care. They have the Lost River Treatment Center that she also oversees, along with the MODOC Youth and Family Services and the Healing House. So they do a lot of children and family work, as well as treatment work for substance abuse and suicide prevention and that kind of thing. So she operates many different grants that flow through the MODOC Nation, and so
She's busy.
yeah, she's a very busy
You got a
woman
lot
and
going
has
on
a,
down
has a
there.
huge vision for their
Good,
behavioral
good.
health and their tribes. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
It's got to be a pleasure to help her get that set
Yes,
up
absolutely.
and to offer
It has
wisdom.
been.
And
Yep.
yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
Well, we've been going about 2 hours.
Okay.
You feeling it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we've covered a lot of good ground, a lot of good memories, and
Yeah.
congratulations on
Thank
25
you.
years.
Thank
That's
you.
so cool.
Thank you.
I hope it goes much further than another 25.
Yes,
I
I
hope
hope
the
so.
legacy lives on.
I
Yeah.
hope so.
Thank you.
So we got the
sounds
gala
wonderful.
coming up. Sorry it's
Yeah.
sold out.
Sold
Maybe
out
if
November
you're buddies with
12th.
Jim Adams, you can
Yeah,
get you something.
he could get you a plate, maybe.
Yeah, right. You can
Yeah.
standing room only.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's November 12th.
Yes.
Check that out if you want. You can donate on the website.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yes.
And then
Find
Call
our
us if you're-
Facebook page.
follow the Facebook
Yeah.
page. That's right. Because you go
Most-
live every once in a while.
Yeah, you'll get the most current, up to date stuff from our Facebook page.
Information.
Perfect. And that's just
yes.
Horses of Hope.
Horses of Hope Writing Center.
Writing Center.
You just want to make sure you're on the one that's either Rogersville, Missouri, or the Baxter Springs barn, because there
Okay.
are some other Horses of Hope in the country.
They came after us, by the way. I
Yes,
believe.
they were.
Trademark that.
That's right. I don't think it matters if it's trademarked or not.
Right.
But,
Still gonna use it.
yeah,
HOH.
yeah, yeah. So, but we keep the most current, up to date stuff on that Facebook page as well.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And just give us, if you're interested in volunteering, be sure and call the barn. And
Okay.
Our numbers are all on our website, or they're on our.
Yeah.
You can reach out on Facebook and private messages or direct
Yeah.
message. And,
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need all the volunteers we can get.
And
right?
we
Yes, we
appreciate
do.
you so much
Yes,
for inviting
absolutely.
us. Thank
It's been
you so
such
much.
a pleasure to talk. you know, the first time that we made that video, we cut, and then you started telling me stories, and I'm packing up my gear like teary-eyed, like, oh gosh. And that's when I knew, like, okay, these ladies got to come on and tell some stories.
And you have stayed tenacious and after
You
us.
have,
to
because
finally
it's been
got
a year.
here.
I knew it. Yeah, I knew it.
It's been a year.
You told a story about, it was like a young Irishman or something that, I think he had a pony. He was like a bigger guy and came from a really rough part of somewhere. That was the story that, like, because it reminded me of an old friend of mine. But yeah.
Well, that's our friend, yeah.
That's the one that got me.
Yeah.
But,
You'll have to help me with that.
I'll help you with that.
yeah.
When we're off this podcast.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Minnie was his horse.
Mimi.
Minnie.
Yeah, that's right. That's
A little miniature horse.
Yeah, because he was yeah.
Okay.
But thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and
You're
thank you for, not being annoyed by me texting you to come
heavens,
on.
No,
absolutely
Thank you
not.
for your persistence.
And there's probably some great things we can do with you in the future. that we
Absolutely.
don't-
Love to.
You got great footage when you were there. and
Yes,
I'm
yes.
excited to see what we might be able to do.
Maybe
with
some
that.
documentaries or TikToks or
who
something.
knows?
I don't know.
Very cool.
Anything.
All
Fun.
right.
Be fun.
Yes.
Ladies, you're
Thank
welcome
you.
back anytime on the
Thank
podcast.
you.
Want to come talk
Thank you
about
so
an
much.
event or anything
Okay.
like that?
And it's wonderful
always
because
open.
you're our neighbor.
Yeah, right. I'm just
right in
down
our
the road,
neighborhood.
That's
10
right.
minutes away.
Easy. Yeah.
I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Sci-Fi and Friends podcast, episode number 70. Is this 76? Yes, it is. If you want to donate to Horses of Hope, just go to their website, horsesofhope.com.
Yes.
And there's a donation button there, or look them up on Facebook. Follow them, share their posts, reach out, comment if you want to volunteer. And if you want to go to the gala, reach out to Jim Adams. Maybe we can get more tables. I don't know. Or wait till next year. You have to
Next
wait.
year, be
Yeah.
first in line for
First
next
in
year.
line. It's usually held at the early November.
Yep.
There you go. So
Yep.
2023 gala for everyone that missed out this year.
Yep.
Thanks for listening.
Thank
Always
you.
appreciate it, guys. Take care. Peace.